and welcome to episode 9 of my crafting podcast. This is my fortnightly vlog about knitting, crochet and anything else that seems like a good idea at the time. I'm coming to you from rural North Yorkshire in the north of England, where I live with my husband, 3 daughters and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Mel Browne Crafting Podcast. You can find me on Ravelry as funkyforty. And we have a group on Ravelry for the podcast called Mel Browne Crafting Podcast. And that's where all the show notes for today will be. Everything I've mentioned, there'll be a link to it. So if you click down below, there's a link to the Ravelry page, and from there you can get all the show notes that you need. So, hello! I've got a little note to myself today. Can you read that? Speak up! Because I'm still having problems with volume. But I'm going to work hard today to speak up and not whisper. As you can see, I've got the resident Siamese, and just joining us as a special treat, we've got the furry boy. So this fellow is Clyde. You've met him before. He's lovely. I think he's going to settle on my lap, which is going to make things challenging. Anyway, right, here we are. I wanted to introduce you to something, but I think I might have blown the surprise, but we'll see anyway. Today we have, where are they now? What's happened to the projects you saw last time? We've got some fabric, no, don't jump up there for heaven's sake, you'll knock everything off. We've got some fabric dyeing, something new, a little update on Creative Escape, my retreats business. Some knit group and my plans. Okay, so I can hear the iron ticking and I'm wondering if I turned it off. Right, so quick intro. I wanted to tell you something about me. From a very early age I was fascinated with all things Indian and Pakistani, starting with the food and moving on to the clothes. And this culminated in me getting married in a shalwar kameez, a traditional Pakistani clothes. I'll show you a picture here. So that's with my father-in-law, who sadly died last year. But you may have noticed my hands. They were decorated with henna. And for anybody who doesn't know, henna is a plant. And it's used to create a paste, which is often known as mendi as well. And in Indian and Pakistani and Bangladeshi weddings, it's very common for the bride to have her hands and feet painted with this paste. And once it dries, it leaves a sort of orange stain, which then kind of goes brown over the next couple of days. And then it stays for up to a couple of weeks, depending on various things. So it's just a temporary mark, and it's part of the celebration for a wedding. Well, I loved all that, and that's why I had that. I'll put another picture of my maid of honour, my best friend, who also has sadly died, applying it the night before. So I've always been fascinated with henna, and whenever I've had an opportunity to have it done, I have done it. But I wanted more than that, and that is why just after I finished the podcast last time, I rushed off to Knaresborough, where I had this done. So you can see it's styled on a henna tattoo, but it is a permanent tattoo. I had it done at Wild Style in Knaresborough, the lovely Mel, and I am delighted with it. So you're going to see quite a bit of it, so I just thought I'd introduce it and let you know what it's about. So there we go. Okay, so where are they now? What happened to the projects that you've already seen? Well, the first one I'm going to show you is the one that I couldn't find a name for. Let's wait for Shiloh to settle down. This is in my product placement, not very unglamorous plastic bag. It's my flowers quilt. Sorry, not quilt, blanket. So this is where I'd done the motifs and I'm now joining them. A friend of mine suggested on YouTube Grandma's Flower Garden, which is a 1930s quilting pattern, a very popular quilting pattern. And my grandma didn't really have flowers. So I think I'll just go for a flower garden. Anyway, I've been messing about with that name for ages, so I finally made the decision. Here it is. So I don't think I'm going to write up this pattern because, to be honest, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making it up as I'm going along. It is definitely getting bigger. But if I haven't already moaned about this enough, let's have another moan. Oh my goodness, the geometry of it is doing my head in. Just last night I made a mistake because when you put a green on, you have to know at that point, obviously I'm joining to this one and I'm joining to the green one and I'm joining to this one. I also need to know if I'm joining to another motif over here. And I think I've done this wrong as well because I think I do need to join to another motif and I need to do that on the last round of this. So if I haven't done that right, I'm going to have to undo it and redo it to join. And this is my problem. I can't quite get into my head where they fit in. I've got my little piece of graph paper and that's kind of helping, but only helps if I look at it, right? So, yeah, I'd probably be doing more of it if it wasn't doing my head in. But that's coming along well, and that's a long-term project. I'll be pottering away with that. Oh, look, I attached another one there last night. That's the one that caused all the problems. I'll be pottering away at that for months to come. So, let's get with that. I'll put the yarn up here. And all the needle sizes and everything are on my project page. It's a 4-ply, but it's a bigger needle to make it lacy. So it is done, and I had very little left over, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be big enough because I wouldn't be able to block it because it's stretchy. But what I forgot to consider is because it's stretchy, it'll stretch. Anyway, and of course I don't have to block it because I hate blocking and I'm rubbish at blocking. So there is a right and a wrong side to this. So basically it kind of fits around like that, and if I want to I can tie these in a knot. They're quite stretchy. I don't want to cut off my breathing, but so that looks quite nice, doesn't it? I don't think it's going to do much to keep me warm. I don't know, but it's really, really pretty, and I think particularly if I was wearing a jacket and had it undone, you could be able to see this bit here. It's really, really pretty. So I'm quite pleased with that. And as soon as I'd finished, I used one ball. So I had one end at the beginning and one end at the end, and that was it. So I ran those in, no blocking, no soaking, no nothing. So that made me very happy. So that's all done. Stormy Sky pattern. It'll all be linked in the show notes. And if you find me on Ravelry, funkyforty, you can have a look in my project page. Sometimes I put lots and lots of notes in my project pages, and sometimes I don't put none at all. But you will be able to see what needle I was using and what the yarn is, all that kind of stuff. Okay, Stormy Sky. Right, what's next? Oh, Bird of Fire. So this is a pattern by Sara Wilcox. It's available on Ravelry, and I was doing it with a skein of black yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners, and a skein of hand-dyed yarn, which I do with Easter egg dyes in 2 separate cakes. So it's finished. It's not very easy to show, so I'll put in a picture here which is styled on the same way as the designer had photographed hers. So here it is. We start with the blue, and it goes through. This is about the end of the first ball where it gets really dark here, and then we pick up the second ball and it goes out to sort of pinky colours. So I am really happy with it. It's covered in Madam's hair, but other than that, it is really stunning. It is beautiful, and it's designed obviously to be worn as a wrap, and it works very well. The shape fits very well. Oh, let me just show you a picture of blocking it. I am so rubbish at blocking. I'm sure Sarah would tell me I needed to pin it out in a proper crescent shape. I just pinned out 4 pins and just left it. I was rubbish, but it doesn't matter because it works like as a wrap like that. You can, I'm sure you can see it, imagine it hanging down, but that isn't the way I would typically wear something. I don't wear posh dresses and go out very often, but you can also wear it like that, and then like that you've got the pink hanging down one side and you've got the blue hanging down the other. So, or you could even put those underneath, put that on top. So there's lots of different ways to style it, and it's sock wool, so it's sock yarn, so it's 75% wool, so it's nice and warm. I love it. I think it's really stunning. It's a great way to show off a skein. You know, when you go somewhere like a festival and you buy one skein of really, really impressive yarn, and you don't know what you're going to do with it, and you keep it in your stash and you just touch it because it's so beautiful, and then finally you think, I ought to do something with this, but you don't really know what to do with one skein. I mean, there are some one skein projects, but sometimes they're a bit small. This is the perfect project for that one skein of fancy yarn that you bought, that you've got in your stash and you don't know what to do with, because you can just pair it with something contrasting and plain, and you've got something totally stunning. I was disappointed with the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. It got tangled, not as bad as the previous ball did, but it's just so scratchy. I soaked it in eucalan, jasmine eucalan, to block before I blocked it, and it is better, but it's still, I wore it on, I was wearing it yesterday just to see what it was like, and it's a bit itchy on my neck. Again, I think if I wash it another once or twice that should help, but it's not good. So I'm disappointed with that. But the actual hand-painted, hand-dyed yarn rather, is lovely. That's Prestige Fibres bare yarn that I bought a big pack of. I'll put a link to that in as well. If you are looking to dye any yarn, remember to use the hashtag dyeoneskein. And that's a really good way to buy yarn, actually, because it was, I think it was £31 for 5 100-gram skeins. It works out just over £6 a pop, and then you can put your own colours in. Right, so another finished object. The Curacao socks. So there's another hand-dyed yarn. The one that I did, I dip-dyed the sock blank. So how are they doing? Well, they're done as well. So what I did, I said I would do this, and I did do it, is I blocked one and not the other, because I wanted to see how the little bobbles that come from knitting from yarn that's already been knitted. So, you know, when I pulled it off the sock blanket, it was wiggly. I'll put a picture in here. And then when you knit it, it still looks a bit wiggly. So I wanted to see the difference between it before and after blocking. So here it is. I don't think you can actually tell, which really surprised me. So there it is, unblocked, and there it is, blocked. Can you tell a difference? Unblocked on top. I'm up close and I can't really see a difference, which is really surprising. I'm wondering whether I'm going to bother to block the other one now, to be honest. So there you go. I think they're beautiful. I really, really love them. You can see the colour shift. Obviously you can see it a bit more starkly at the front because I did the heel. But you can see the colour shift at the back, more ombre and slower. And I think I've washed the salt from Curacao and the sun cream out of it now. So there we go. These are also for my boxer socks cowl. They're my finish in June socks, and it is the 5th, 6th, 7th of June. So that's good, I'm still ahead of schedule. I love these little stripes here. Yeah, so yeah, that's unexpected. Right, I'm fascinated by my own socks. Okay, am I remembering to speak up? Okay, speak up. So that's Curacao socks. This is a cast off or bind off fest here. I've just finished everything. So that is all the Where Are They Nows. I have made one more thing, and this was a really silly thing. Last night, I was just getting ready to settle down with my book. Excuse me. And I turned the fan on, because I like to have a fan on at night. And over by the fan switch, there was my mending basket. And in the top of my mending basket was the last piece of yarn left from my Ocean's 11 colourway that I used to make a cowl a couple months ago. And it's only one short piece, and I just didn't seem to be able to ignore it. It was 10:15. So I picked it up, cut it into 3 and plaited it, and then made a bracelet out of it. I don't know why it was so important to do that after 10 o'clock last night, but it was. And there it is, to add to the interesting collection of bracelets I have on that side. That one has got a little elephant on it, so cute. That was made by a friend of mine. I'll come back to her in a minute. Mooland Gifts, I'll put a link in. And then that's from my Red Tent group, and this one is my LGBT Pride bracelet to show my support for the LGBTQ community. So quite an interesting range of colours on there now, and of course everything that was on here is shifted to here. So it's getting chaos there. Right, where I'm up to. So with all those finished objects, the whip count at the moment is down to 2. I don't remember ever having, I must have happened, but I can't remember ever having as few as 2 whips. Last time I podcast I had 5, and the time before that I had 6. And at the beginning of the year I had 3 blankets, 3 socks, various other bits and pieces. So that's really, really low for me, and I was kind of on a bit of a challenge to myself. Once I finished the socks and the Bird of Fire, I thought, I really need to finish the Stormy Sky, but if I cast on something new, I'm not going to focus on it. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to just see how low can I go. So I'm now down to 2. So that's the flowers blanket that you just saw, and my memories blanket. I'm going to give you a quick flash of it. I haven't seen it for a while. Oh, look at this. That's my Easy Knits that I made a lovely pair of socks out of earlier this year, and I ran out to put another bit on there. So this is the outer ring that I'm working on at the moment. Oh, so lovely. It's very personal, a blanket like this. So there we go. So this is another very long-term project. I remember telling you something like 10, 40-hour weeks worth of work over the years this is going to be. And I love it. I really, really enjoy working on it. But so I've just got the 2 now, 2 blankets, 2 long-term projects on the go, on the needles, on the hook, whatever, and nothing else. I mean, I've still got the 365 button project. I haven't touched that for a long time, and I do need, sorry, that's my daughter's iPad tinging away over there. I do need to pick that up and start that again. But that's not a knitting or crochet project. And it's not something you can pick up and work on. It's just you put a button on every day. So all I have that I can pick up and work on now is my knitting blanket and my crochet blanket. And I'm just interested to see how long I can go with just these 2. Because normally I've got a huge variety of things to pick up. To be honest, they're not the most portable. This is not very portable. It's not exactly a shove in your handbag job. And this is my the blanket. You just saw the blanket now, but this is the bag I keep it in because it's got all my sock scraps in it. Of course, I don't have to carry the extra yarn around, but they're not very portable. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just going to have fun for a little bit and just see how long I can last with just 2 whips, because I finished the last project, the Stormy Sky, yesterday. So let's see how far that can go. Can't go too far, obviously, because it's going to get a bit boring for you. Just kind of, oh, I've done another few squares on my blanket. It's not going to be very interesting. So, but anyway, that's how many I've got. 2. How many have you got right now, this moment, as you're listening? Pop a comment below. How many whips have you got? Some people I know have got really, really old ones in the back of a cupboard. I don't tend to do that, but I'd love to know. Right. Okay. There's no new whips on the block because the only thing I've started, I can't even really include that. So what else is there? Right. Shibori. Have you heard of that? It is a Japanese manual resist dyeing technique. It dates back to the 8th century, and it's really a kind of version of tie dyeing. So it's dyeing fabric, and it was traditionally done with indigo, and then to a lesser extent madder root and things like that. But it was about taking fabrics, not so much cotton at the beginning, more silk and that kind of thing, later on cotton, and using indigo dyes and various really fiddly methods to resist the dye in certain places. So you've got your undyed cotton or silk, you do something with it to mean that some parts of the fabric resist the dye and the other parts take it, so it creates patterns. So my friend Amanda, who runs Mooland Gifts, that's how you can find her on Instagram and on Facebook, and she's got a website as well. She's a very talented artist, and she's a friend of mine, lucky me. So I went over there with Doll Belly Knits this week, and Amanda took us through the Shibori technique. So I'll put some pickies in now of what went on. And I'll show you the results. I am stunned by the results. So I'll just lean over and get them, excuse me. So the first one, oh, I've actually ironed these, that's why the iron was possibly still on. I don't iron clothes, I only iron fabric, and even then only when I could be bothered. So the first one, we wrapped little beads inside the fabric with loom bands. Now that's a kind of familiar tie-dye technique. You tend to put a stone or a rock in or whatever, so that's fairly familiar. They'll do it as small as wrapping around a grain of rice. Make really, really small resistant parts, white parts. Far too faffy for me. And unfortunately the loom bands that I chose were pretty poor quality and a lot of them broke. So I only ended up with 2 dots. But it's a kind of minimalistic tie-dye, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, and then I think this is the one where we folded up. Do you see that one that had pegs on it? It was all kind of scrunched up and folded and had pegs on it. That was this one. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And right near the end I did one where I kind of concertinaed the paper like you make a fan, and squished it all up. That's this one. My friend Elaine at Knit Group, she loved that one yesterday. And then my 2 favourites. We had kind of plastic poles of different sizes, 2 different ones, and we wrapped the cotton around the pole on the bias, so it's kind of diagonal. Then wrapped string around to hold it tight, and then we scrunched it all down to the bottom of the pole, and then we put the pole into the dye. Again, you'll have seen a photo of that. The effect of these is absolutely stunning. Well, okay, maybe I'm easily impressed, but and finally my favourite, which is my favourite side, probably that one. I just think that is amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, very, very happy about that. What am I going to do with them? I make bags, I would think, because that's pretty much all I know how to make. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So that's Shibori and Mooland Gifts. Fabulous. Right, something new. My friend, my design partner, who I often talk about, Linda, she is cablemabel on Ravelry. She has been shopping. We've both got a bit into spinning recently. She did the workshop with me. And she went out, what did she order online? And she bought me a present. And I absolutely love it. Crinkle, crinkle. It's a ball of fluff. colours are a little bit more, oh no, that's not good, a little bit more subtle in real life than they appear there, but we've got the really deep purples here. That's a really soft pink. Oh, that's coming out well. And then some relatively undyed parts. Absolutely gorgeous. It's either BFL cross or something else, South Down cross. Now I don't know what that means. I know what BFL is, Blue-Faced Leicester, but does cross mean it's a cross breed with another? I don't know. And Linda's not exactly sure which of the two breeds it's from. But it is soft as anything, and it's just, ooh, I want to have a pink beard. It's lovely. And it's got that smell of kind of clean sheep. You know, it's definitely sheepy, but it's been washed, obviously. And it's gorgeous. And what I want to do with it is when you've got a colour change and then you apply it, you kind of lose the colour change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the fibre down the middle, the whole plait down the middle, and then I'm going to spin both parts, and then I'll apply both parts together, so you should more or less maintain the colour changes. I'm a very, very beginner spinner. Ooh, that's good. So, you know, how that will work remains to be seen. I am still re-spinning my first bat, and I haven't even finished that first bat, and I have some plain undyed fibre that I got with my course, and I've got another whole bat of green fibre. So I've got lots and lots of fibre stashed now, so I need to get on and do some spinning. But that was lovely. Thank you, Linda. Did I say it's from Wheeldale Woolcrafts? I'll put a link in the show notes. Super. Right. Quick update on Creative Escape. So this is the business I've just started, arranging knitting and crochet retreats in North Yorkshire in England. I'll only be a couple of minutes, so if you're not interested, just bear with me a sec. So I've got my first booking from someone I don't know. Linda's booked on to one of them, but somebody I don't know is booked on for the first time, which is extremely exciting. And I've got this plan. I was kind of styling this on a retreat I heard about through a podcast, and they were given a skein of hand-dyed yarn when they arrived, and that was just a little gift, and I thought that was a lovely idea. Well, in my budget, I haven't got money for that right now. So what I thought I would do is check the guest's preference of DK or double knit or sock yarn, and dye a skein for each of them in a colourway that I just invent and I'm not ever going to do again. I don't commercially dye, I'm not good enough for that, but to do a skein for everybody, including me, in a specific colourway that won't ever be repeated, just for everybody at the retreat. So they all get given one when they arrive or whatever, and then as we go away, we can all keep up to date with what we're doing with our skein, and this kind of holds us together. I thought that was going to be really good fun. So I've been doing a lot of research on how to dye skeins so they're going to be very similar. There could be up to 10 people on a retreat plus me, so that's up to 11 skeins I could be dyeing at once, and I want them to be clearly the same colourway. So that's exciting. And then the other thing, my market research on the retreats was very conflicting about having a seller. I've contacted a local indie dyer about potentially coming along and just doing a quick sale for us. And she's okay with that in principle, but some of the people that responded to my thoughts about a retreat said, no, you know, if we've already paid for a retreat, we're not going to want to spend money on yarn. And other people have said, yarny people always want to have a look at yarn to buy. So really unsure about what to do about that. So if you've got any thoughts on that, do let me know. That's it for Creative Escape. Knit group, the knit along for the Bird of Fire. I have finished, but as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person who has. And my yarn dyeing friend in America, Kathy, she hasn't even cast on yet. I think she's casting on this week. So if you feel like joining in, it's not too late. Do come along, have a look at the pattern and join us. There's a thread on my Ravelry group, the podcast Ravelry group for it. Come along, join in, and use the hashtag Bird of Fire Cal, K-A-L, and join in. And then we've been doing virtual knit group. So if you're out and about knitting on a Wednesday afternoon, Oh my goodness, I'm really sorry about that tinging. That's my daughter's iPad. All of my stuff is on Do Not Disturb. But if you're out and about on a Wednesday afternoon knitting, then post a picture on Instagram at #virtualknitgroup. So this week we at Knit Group posted, and Doll Belly, who was on the school sponsored walk, was sat on the floor in the grass knitting, and also posted and tagged. So if you're out and about knitting, post and tag it. It's fun. We can all be kind of knitting together. Okay, finally, some plans. I don't know how many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I designed a pattern. I just had this picture in my head of a cable that kind of opened up and came round your finger, your thumb rather, on a mitten, and so I went ahead and I designed it and I published it. And this is the sample I knit, because I always think cables look so beautiful in cream yarn. That's not particularly good. I'm not sure how it will fit over my growing collection of bracelets on the other side. This is actually tighter than I remember knitting it in, as my hands have grown. So this is Opus 3000, and it's really lovely customizable pattern. You can make it as long or as short. I love the way the rib goes up, twists up into there, and then the cable comes over the thumb. Anyway, this was my test sample, and I gave them to Linda because I said I'm never going to wear cream because I'll get them dirty, and she was going to dye them, but she never got around to it. And of course now I'm enjoying dyeing. She's given them back to me, so I am going to dip dye these. We agreed at Knit Group that the darker colour at the bottom would be good, and I'm going to dip dye those in the next couple of weeks, so expect to see those. And I'm going to have a massive cast on, because with these two projects, I'm going to enjoy working on them and I love them both, but just one knitting and one crochet project is going to be a bit thin on the ground for me, and I won't have anything to show you in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to probably have a massive cast on, go through my Up Next box. I might do a bit of footage of that, and yeah, actually I'll put in a bit of video footage of that, of what's in there, because I'm going to probably do a bit of casting on, get a few projects on the go. I don't have enough crochet projects queued up. I don't have any crochet projects queued up, and I desperately need more crochet projects. So I need to have a think about that, but also to get some knitting things going. So that's me for today. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the thumbs up. Please give me a comment, you know, tell me how many whips you've got, tell me what you think about some of the things I've suggested. And pop on over to the Ravelry group and have a look what's going on there. Join us for Virtual Knit Group on a Wednesday afternoon. Sorry, I'm totally distracted. I hope you are too, by how delightful Shiloh is. Look at her. Aww. And then Clyde is still, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this. There he is. Clydey! Clydey! Oh, he's ignoring me because I won't let him upstairs. So yes, pop along, find me on Instagram or whatever, and just say hello. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for watching. It makes me happy when people watch, and I really enjoy doing this. So thank you for coming, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye! This is my Up Next box. So, what do we have? We have some cream and blue and black, or is it navy, and brown Starcraft yarn that I bought for another project, and as you can see from the wiggliness, I've done some knitting on it. And this is going to be Rockin' Rose by Martina Baim. Looking forward to that. Okay, what's this? Ooh, this is some lovely Scottish yarn I bought when Doll Belly and I went to Edinburgh last year for our Balls and Beer tour. It's Jack Rennie, is it? Absolutely gorgeous Scottish yarn. And what I'm doing with that is, oh, this looks like another Martina Baim. Oh no, it's not. It's Continua by Lisa Much. How lovely is that? Then I've got this. I bought this all at Yarndale. This is yarn for a hoodie. Now I don't do many garments, but this is French yarn. I can smell it, it's so woolly. And it's called Inuit or something similar. Inuit, there we go. By Sylvie Polo. Look at those lovely stripes. And it's got a hood as well. So I'm a bit worried about doing a garment because I haven't really done one for a long time. Here is another shawl. Buy it. We saw this at Yarndale. It's in 2 colours, absolutely gorgeous. And the colours I bought for this, yeah, West Yorkshire Spinners. This is so much softer than the black one. It feels lovely. And the other colour for that is the grey. I just think those teal and grey look absolutely gorgeous together. I've got some really soft Aran there from Belitza hat. And I've got 2 random skeins of yarn in there. That, what was that? That's cast on 90 join, knit 1 round. Okay. Right, that's my notes of something I plan to do with that. And I haven't a clue what I'm going to do with that. I don't know why it's in my up next thing. So, that's my plans.